Hello, everyone. This is the CircuitPython weekly meeting for July 14th, 2025. It's the time of the week where we get together to talk about all things CircuitPython. My name is Tim, and I am sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python that is designed to run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. Excuse me. CircuitPython development is primarily sponsored by Adafruit, so if you want to help support Adafruit and CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting gets hosted on the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join anytime by going to adafru.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython dev text channel as well as the CircuitPython voice channel. This meeting typically occurs every Monday at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern, 11 a.m. U.S. Pacific, except when that coincides with the U.S. holiday. However, I will note here we are in kind of a summer schedule, so to speak. We are down to bi-weekly right now. We're doing every 2 weeks. So today is the 14th, and the next meeting will be on the 28th of July. We'll go back to the regular weekly schedule. Currently is the plan for September, so we'll do every 2 weeks through July and August, and then back to normal in September is the current plan. In the notes document, there is a link to a calendar which you can view online or add to your favorite calendar app. We also send out notifications about upcoming meetings via Discord. If you would like to receive those notifications, just ask to be added to the CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. There is a shared notes document that accompanies the meeting and recording. You can contribute to that document beforehand. The final notes document includes timestamps to go along with the video, so you can use that document to skip around and view the parts of the video that interest you most. The meeting tends to run 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how many folks are in the round-robin sections. After each meeting, we post a link to the next week's meeting's notes document over on the CircuitPython dev channel on Discord. You can always check the pinned messages there in the CircuitPython dev channel throughout the week to find the notes doc for the upcoming meeting. If you would like to participate but cannot attend, you are free to leave hug reports and status updates in the document, and then we will read them for you during the meeting, even if you're unable to attend. That's totally fine. Just put your notes in that doc and we'll read them out for you. The meeting structure, it's held in 5 parts. The first part will be community news. That's a look at all things CircuitPython, Python on hardware in the community. It's a chosen set of items from the Python on Microcontroller newsletter. After that, we will go to the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinka. That one is a quantitative overview of the entire project. Chance to look at the project by the numbers, separate from our status updates. After that is Hug Reports, which is the first of our 2 round-robin sections. Hug Reports is an opportunity to highlight the good things folks are doing, take some time to recognize awesome folks in our community and beyond. The 4th part is Status Updates. That is also a round-robin section. During Status Updates, it's an opportunity to report on what we've been doing. You can take a couple of minutes to talk about what you've been doing in the last week since the last meeting, and what you anticipate that you'll be up to over the next week, or 2 weeks in this case, until the next meeting. The 5th and final part of the meeting is In the Weeds. That one is an opportunity for more long-form discussions. These can be discussions that come out of status updates, or they can be items that are identified ahead of time as too long for status updates. That covers how the meeting will go. With that, I will get us into community news and take the first timestamp here. So first up in community news this week, we have 10.0.0 Alpha 8 was released. CircuitPython 10.0.0 Alpha 8 is an alpha release for 10.0. Further features, changes, and bug fixes will be added before the final release is ready. There are links here to the Adafruit blog and the release notes on GitHub if you would like to take a look at the nitty-gritty details. A couple high-level highlights of this release are listed here, which I will read off. Increase the firmware partition size for ESP32S3 boards with 4 megabytes of flash, allowing more features to be included in those builds, including BLE. You must update the tiny UF2 bootloader on those boards. See the notes. Merged updates from MicroPython 1.25, fixed regressions caused by SD auto mount capability, added support for cursor X and cursor Y properties on the terminal class in terminal IO, and added picodvi.framebuffer.color_depth, which allows you to access the color depth that the display is currently configured for. So check those things out, and again, check out the link to the blog and the release notes if you would like more details on that. And the new build is available now from CircuitPython.org if you would like to update your device. Next up, we have building an autonomous Lego train with CircuitPython and LiDAR. Dr. Lorianne Underwood hacks a Bluetooth-controlled Lego train, mounting a track system to the ceiling of her home. She integrates CircuitPython, a seed Xiao board, NeoPixels, and a spinning LiDAR sensor to detect walls and control the train's movement. There are links here to this project, to Element 14, YouTube, and Blue Sky, and I would encourage you to check this one out. I watched this video earlier today, and it was really, as the newsletter notes, it's a really neat project, and it's cool to see folks using CircuitPython for stuff like this and hooking up the LiDAR sensor and having some fun with it. Next up, we have a handy utility for seeing CircuitPython pins. This one is a Python 3 command line utility to see the defined pins for a CircuitPython board. There are links here to GitHub, which goes to, I believe, gist with the actual code in it, and a link to Mastodon. This was a nice script shared by our very own community member Toddbot. Thanks to Todd for sharing this, and thanks to Anne, which we will mention again, for including it in the newsletter. This is definitely a handy utility. Next up, and the last of the newsletter items this week, was the project of the week, a DIY IR camera. Malcolm Wilson built a digital infrared camera in a Yashica film body. It's built with a Raspberry Pi 02W, a Pi Camera 3, Inno IR, and an OLED display. Programmed in Python. There is a link here to Camera Hacks by Malcolm J. And this, again, looked like a really cool project. I love the way that they managed to get this stuffed into the actual camera case. So there's a picture here as well if anyone wants to see that and check out the project. So all of these items, as well as several others, came from the Python on Microcontrollers weekly newsletter, which is a CircuitPython community-run newsletter that is emailed every Monday. The complete archives are available at adafruitdaily.com. This newsletter highlights the latest in Python on hardware-related news from around the web, including CircuitPython, Python, and MicroPython developments. To contribute your own news or projects, you can edit next week's draft on GitHub, submitting a pull request with the changes, or you can also email cpnews@adafruit.com or tag posts with hashtag CircuitPython on Mastodon, Blue Sky, or X. And as always, thank you to Anne for curating all of the great items that we find in the newsletter each week. Next up is the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinka. As a reminder, this one is a quantitative overview of the entire project. It gives us a chance to look at the health of the project separate from our status updates. First, we will talk about the project overall, and then separately, we will break out the stats for the libraries and Blinka. First up, we have some overall stats this week. Overall, for the past 7 days, we had 16 pull requests merged across all of CircuitPython libraries, which is very cool to see. There were 10 authors, and there were a handful of names here which were newer or less frequent or just unrecognized to my eye. So these folks might be newer or less frequent contributors. We always like to call those folks out and say thanks to them especially. So this week, those are Crack XT, Bborn CR, Fabian Chateau, Omar Embed, and D Drown. So thanks to those folks, as well as the other names on this list, which we do see more frequently from week to week. We had 6 reviewers for those pull requests. So thanks to Anne, Liz, myself, Lady Ada, Dan, and Jeff. Thanks to Jeff, especially as well, for getting in some reviews while he is out on vacation. It was good to see his name pop up this week. We had 9 issues closed by 6 people, with 16 new issues opened up by 13 people. And I did go ahead and pull the stats for last week as well. I don't know if we'll do this every meeting, but I just went back and grabbed the stats from the document for the 7th, so 1 week ago. So these are from not the past 7 days, but the 7 days prior to that, since we did a 2-week schedule. Ooh. Sorry about that. I don't know if that was on my end or what, but I think we're good now. Where was I here? So yeah, so these were from the week of the 7th of July. So that week we had, still these are overall stats, so all the repos across the whole project. We had 9 pull requests merged that week from 5 different authors, and the names from that prior week that were newer or less frequent or unrecognized to my eye, thanks to let's see, Loaded Arwell. I'm not sure the correct way to pronounce that. My apologies. And let's see, BG Igus. I don't know how to pronounce that one either, so my apologies. But thanks to those folks, as well as our more frequently seen contributors here. We also had 11 issues closed that past week by 8 different people, and 8 new issues opened up by 7 people. Next up, I will tell you about the core. So let's see here. Let me catch up here. All right, so this section covers the CircuitPython core, which is the C code that drives the CircuitPython interpreter itself. In the core CircuitPython repo, over the past 7 days, there were 10 pull requests merged by 7 different authors. Thank you again to those folks who were newer or less frequent contributors, as well as our other folks who we see more frequently from week to week. We had 3 reviewers, thanks to Jeff, Dan, and myself, and there are 24 pull requests that remain open as of the time that these stats were run. I did not pull out the week before stats for the core because I noticed it was a repeat of a couple of the same names. Those folks were already represented in here, so I figured there weren't that many and it would be fine to leave it out since it was a repeat of a couple of the same names. Same is true for libraries, but I did include that for Blinka, which we'll see when we get down to it. To round out the core stats, though, we had, over the past 7 days, 5 issues closed by 3 people, 8 new issues opened up by 6 people, and that leaves us right now with 783 open issues. There are 9 active milestones, which are how we like to organize the work for Adafruit-funded folks. Currently in the 10.0 milestone, there are 26 issues. 10.x has 1, 10.o.x has 1, 10.x.x has 45, 11 has 7, and 9.2.x has 0, which is good that our stable release currently has no open issues, and we are well on our way working towards 10. There were 16 issues opened up tagged library. There are 641 long-term issues. There are 27 that are marked support, 16 that are third party, and 4 that are not assigned a milestone as of the time that these stats were taken. Overnight, I believe. Next up, I will tell you about the libraries. This section covers all of the CircuitPython libraries, which are split into 2 main bundles. There is an Adafruit library bundle, which currently has 367 libraries in it. There is a community library bundle, which has 165 libraries. That one is contributed by members of the community, both individuals and small groups. That gives us a total right now of 532 libraries that support CircuitPython. Across the Adafruit bundle libraries in the past 7 days, there were 6 pull requests merged by 3 different authors. Thanks to Ann, Liz, and myself, there were 5 reviewers. Thanks again to Ann, Liz, myself, Lady Ada, and Dan. Of the pull requests that were merged, the oldest one was 11 days. The newest handful were down at 1 day like usual. That leaves us at the end of the week with 46 open pull requests. The oldest one is getting up there, 1,061 days. The newest one actually is marked as 10. And then issues-wise, over the past 7 days, we had 4 issues closed by 4 people, 4 new issues opened up by 3 people, and there are 727 issues currently total across all of the Adafruit libraries. There are 3 of those right now that are labeled good first issues, which you could find listed out over at circuitpython.org/contributing, which is the website where you should head if you are interested in getting involved in CircuitPython. When you first load up that page, circuitpython.org/contributing, you'll find a list of open PRs. These are links over to GitHub. The thing that we're looking for here is folks who are interested in reviewing, which is where we tend to point folks first who want to get involved in the project. So if that sounds like something that would be fun to you, you can take a look through that list of open PRs. Look for either a device name that you recognize for some hardware that you've got, or some device that you've got some interest in. click on through to GitHub, and then you can take a look over the code, review it for spelling, syntax, logic, anything like that. If you do have the hardware, you can test out the change and then leave a comment there on GitHub letting us know what you found when you looked over the code. If you were able to test it out, let us know how that went. If you get comfortable with that process and would like to get leveled up to leaving official reviews, we can work with you to make that happen as well. If you would also like to start contributing some of your own code, a good way to get started with that is back on circuitpython.org/contributing. Along the top, you can click over to the issues navigation link. This one is a similar looking list of links over to GitHub, but these ones represent issues instead of pull requests. There's no proposed change. It's not waiting for review. Instead, it's waiting for a person to come along and actually write the code to resolve the issue, whether that's fixing a bug, adding a new feature or a new example, or what have you. So you can look through that list. Again, find something that you are interested in or that you've got the hardware for is especially helpful if you're working on issues. Submit a PR with your changes. We do have a learn guide on how to contribute to CircuitPython using Git and GitHub. So if you need help submitting the PR, we have resources for that. We also have folks who are around on the Discord who are more than happy to help you get spun up. So if you are trying to review or contribute, you're having trouble with the version control, the pre-commit, or any other part of the process, and you would like some help, just come say hi on Discord. Let us know what you're up to. Let us know what trouble you're having, and we would be happy to help you out. I will skip new and updated libraries, but they are listed here if you'd like to see what's new this week. It's in the notes doc. Next up, though, I will tell you about Blinka. So Blinka is the compatibility layer that allows CircuitPython code to run on single-board computers like the Raspberry Pi. Over the past 7 days, there was no action in Blinka land, no pull requests, but the prior week, I did go back and pull stats for that as well, and there was quite a bit actually of work the prior week. So again, this is the week of the 7th of July. There were 6 pull requests merged in Blinka by 5 different authors. A couple of the names were newer, but I mentioned them up in the overall section. So thanks again to those folks, as well as our more frequently seen authors here as well. There were 5 reviewers, so thank you to all of the reviewers, Maker Melissa, Tektrick, Dan, Ann, and myself. There are, at the end of the week, so currently there are 11 pull requests open. Over the past week, issues-wise, there were no issues closed. There were 4 new issues opened up by 4 people, and that leaves us right now with 154 open issues across Blinka and the related libraries. There are currently 162 devices that support the Blinka compatibility layer. Next up is the Hug Reports section. Hug Reports is a chance to highlight folks in the CircuitPython community and beyond for doing awesome things. I'll start, then we'll go down the list in alphabetical order or as they appear in the notes doc. If you're text only or missing the meeting, then I'll read your notes for you when we get to you in the list. So I will take the first timestamp and kick it off. I have a Hug Report this week thanks to Anne for working through the available text and terminal display APIs, documenting issues and possible improvements, as well as working on a new Learn guide that includes this information as well as other information generally about Pico display stuff, which it's very much appreciated to bring the docs up to date with that kind of stuff. I appreciate the work going on there. Next up is Dan, who is not here in the meeting, so I will read for Dan. Dan has a Hug Report for me, Foamy Guy, for some quick reviews before the 10.0.0 alpha release last week. Next up, we have notes from Tanut, who is back this week. Scott, thanks to everyone who covered for me while I was out, Scott says. So thanks to him, and it's good to see him popping back up a bit. Next up is some notes from Toddbot. Toddbot sends out a group hug to everyone, so thanks to Toddbot as well. And next up, and rounding out Hug Reports, we've got James Fowler. Would you like to read yours, or I can read for you if you've got no mic? Don't see, looks like you are still staying muted, so I'm gonna read for you, but jump in if you were wanting to read yours. So James Fowler says a Hug Report for Dan as well as Scott for help with GC Collect. An issue is linked here, 10456 over on the core, I'm assuming. Yeah, like on the core. And James also has another hug report for Dan, Bill88T, Sola85, and Neradoc for help getting IR remotes / PulseIO Pulse-In working again on the Lowland S2 minis with 10.0 alpha. All right. And that is it for hug reports. So next up, we will get into status updates. Status updates is our time to tell folks what we're up to individually. I'll start, and then we'll go through the list of updates alphabetically. When I call on you, you could take a couple of minutes to tell us what you've been doing since the last meeting and what you'll be doing until the next meeting. If a discussion becomes too long for status updates, we can always bump that down to in the weeds and talk about it in more depth there. So I will start it off again for status updates. Over the past couple of weeks, I worked on testing some different devices and versions of Nina firmware with ESP32 SPI library in order to troubleshoot and try to narrow down an issue that is affecting the latest version of Nina. And I created an issue there, put some debug outputs and all sorts of other information, and I am working with TAC on that to try to find a resolution there. Next up, I was working on the triple matrix bonnet. I have been testing it out on Raspberry Pi 4 and Raspberry Pi 5 and working on the Learn guide for that triple matrix bonnet device. And then the last thing I had for status updates was replying to some issues in the core and some libraries relating to terminal and other Pico DVI display documentation related stuff. So next up, we will hear about Dan's status updates. Dan says, released CircuitPython 10.0.0 Alpha 8. This version uses larger firmware partitions on 4 megabyte flash ESP32S3 boards, which requires a tiny UF2 update. There are other fixes and enhancements as well. Dan also says, continuing to work on 10.0.0 issues. I've also made a PR to do larger partitions for 4 megabyte ESP32S2 boards, which will complete the partition size increase for all boards. Non-USB boards have already been done. All right, next up is notes for Jeff. I'm going to sneak in a quick drink of water here. So Jeff has got some notes here. Jeff says, I've made many contributions to MicroPython since April. Some merged, some in open PRs. Check the notes for a full list. And it does say here, host, please don't read it all. So I won't go through the whole thing, but there was some interesting looking stuff in here, improvements to printf and lots of other nitty-gritty details from inside MicroPython. So if you are interested, I would encourage you to take a look in the notes doc at some of the stuff that Jeff has been working on lately. The next sort of main bullet point in Jeff's updates is made more progress with my classic Mac System 6 and 7 MicroPython port, as mentioned in a recent newsletter. Check the notes for the full details. And again, Jeff mentions not to read all of this, so I won't go through all of it, but same thing applies if you would like to learn more about Jeff's work on porting Mac, classic Mac to MicroPython, or vice versa, then check out the notes doc. In the outer bullet points here, Jeff does have a couple of more for the week, so I will finish up with those. Jeff says, I would love collaborators on the Math MicroPython port. For anyone who is interested in that, feel free to reach out. I presume Discord's probably okay for that. Jeff says, I'll be in London at the time of the meeting, returning to the US on July 16th, so a couple more days. And he'll be back around in the country. And rounding out his status report, Jeff says, I'll be attending Pi Ohio the week of July 26th, later on this month. So last for status updates is Tanut. Scott has notes only here that I'll read. So Scott says, back working part-time after leave. I'm still watching the baby during the day, so I'm working when she sleeps. Please mention me if you want my input, and I'll get back to you when I can. Caught up on email and happy to do reviews, and we'll be looking at some ePaper support and FruitJam DVI debugging. Scott has got for status updates, and that is the last of the status updates. So next up, we will get into the weeds. I just realized it's collapsible. I had no idea. That's interesting. In the weeds, as a reminder, is an opportunity for some more long-form discussions. These can either come out of status updates, they can be topics that are identified ahead of time, or can come out of status updates, I should say. If you've got an In the Weeds topic, please make sure to get it added into the notes doc down at the bottom while we're discussing other things, so we're not waiting around to see if anyone has topics. And it is a light meeting, but I did put one topic here for In the Weeds, which I'll read, and then there is a reply from Scott as well, which basically answers it. So if anyone else is interested in this, then here is what we've got. So I mentioned here in the weeds that adding, essentially my core question is about adding a static stubs file in the CircuitPython core repo. As a bit of background, someone recently pointed out that MicroPython const has no stub. It's missing because stubs are mostly generated from shared bindings, and the MicroPython module isn't in there. The docs actually have a similar issue. They also mostly get generated from the code and shared bindings, but in the docs, there's actually a static RST file that essentially is like a placeholder for things that don't exist in shared bindings, including MicroPython const. So it exists in this world where there is a read the docs page for it. There's doc strings for it. Well, no, I don't think there actually are doc strings. I should say there is a read the docs page for it. But it does not exist in the stubs. And so my question is, A, would we like to add that to the stubs? I think it'd be helpful to have those match. And then B, if we do want to add it, like where would we want to put it? And, presumably we would do it kind of in the same way, where we would just have a couple of static files that exist somewhere in the repo, and the make command for stubs can just pull those in, before or after it parses all of the shared binding stuff. And so Scott did actually reply to this here in the notes doc. Scott says, sounds fine to me, maybe a top-level stubs folder in CircuitPython core repo, which does sound good to me and answers essentially all of my questions about whether we want to do that and where to put it. So there is no real need for more discussion there. So that is it for In the Weeds, and with that, will bring us around to the wrap-up. So this has been the CircuitPython weekly meeting for July 14th, 2025. Thanks to everyone who participated with notes in the document. If you would like to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, and those of us that work on CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from the Adafruit shop at adafruit.com. The video of this meeting will be released on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit, and the podcast will be made available on major podcast services. It will also get featured in the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter, which you can visit adafruitdaily.com in order to subscribe to that. The next meeting will be held in 2 weeks. That is the 28th of July. It will be at the usual time of 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the 28th of July. The meeting, as always, is held here on the Adafruit Discord, which you can join anytime by going to adafru.it/discord. If you would like to get notified about the meeting and any changes to the day or time, you can ask to be added to the CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. And that is it for this week's meeting. Thank you to everyone, and we hope to see you all in a couple of weeks.